Welcome, everyone. This is the third Housing Action Committee meeting set for 6:30 p.m. So if you're interested in whole home repair or housing in Philly, you're in the right place. I'm going to turn this over to our committee chair, Gail Loney.
Hello, my name is Gail Loney. I am the chair for the Housing Committee for Philly Neighborhood Networks. And welcome and thank you for coming. I'm actually excited to do this meeting. Not that I'm not excited to do all of them, but I'm really excited to do this meeting because this whole home repairs program is something that I've been looking at and following and just gotten engaged with. So I'm kind of excited to bring it to folks who can dig in and ask questions. Our guest today is Senator Nikil Saval, and I really want the meeting to be his meeting so that he can talk to you about what this is and hit on how important it is, how he got it done, and any other points that he wishes to make. Not sure if all of you guys are familiar with the whole home repair. It's a Senate Bill 1135. It has been passed and it has also been funded, like actually Friday. $125 million of funding that came through the COVID relief program. It addresses whole home repair. I'm not going to sit here and talk. I'm going to let him explain it. It's his bill. He wrote it. It passed the way he wrote it. And I want you guys to listen and get your questions ready because this is the platform. I want people to interact and talk about it. And Senator Saval, you can take it away.
Hi, Ms. Gail. Thank you so much. Forgive me, everyone, I'm speaking to you from afar, but I have some remarks prepared. So it's a pleasure to be here with Philly Neighborhood Networks. With your Housing Action Committee. I'm Nikil Saval. I have worked for a long time, I will say, with members and leaders of neighborhood networks since 2016, since I became an organizer and activist specifically in electoral politics. So just a great honor to be with all of you. And Neighborhood Networks has been hugely supportive of my work and the work that we've done in the first Senate district. So it's just great to be able to present on whole home repairs. I represent the first senatorial district, which represents the people, the communities, and the lands of Kensington at the northern end down to the airport at the southwestern end. So thank you for all the chance to come to the whole home repairs program. We didn't know this when we scheduled this meeting, but we are grateful to be here having won the campaign for whole home repairs with a $125 million appropriation in our state budget and the enactment of the program in law as of this weekend, basically, when we passed the state budget. So I'll describe the program at first. So the whole home repairs program is essentially designed to create a one-stop shop for home repairs and weatherization while building out our local workforce, adding new family-sustaining jobs in a growing field. The program is the first of its kind in the nation, although we hope not the last, which will make it so that Pennsylvanians can stay warm, safe, and dry in homes that they can afford. I introduced the Whole Home Repairs Act in our legislature this past March, but the program is more than a year in the making. My office opened in December 2020, and before we opened, what we needed to do was move the needle on Pennsylvania's housing crisis. We hear frequently about the pandemic's role in this crisis, and of course, COVID-19 has exacerbated it. But Pennsylvania's housing crisis is decades in the making, impacted by racist exclusionary practices like redlining, impacted by depressed, stagnant wages, by high energy burdens and utility bills, especially for low-income households, and a climate crisis for which our current housing stock is woefully ill-equipped. Our homes where we base our lives are the nexus of all these intersecting crises. Over the past year, my office hosted 3 separate policy hearings, and Ms. Gale, I believe, was part of that third one at Temple University, in which we worked to ensure the voices and experiences of Pennsylvania residents were centered. Underlying so many of the testimonies that were shared was the fact that people's homes, regardless of whether they rented or owned, were unsafe. In many instances, residents shared that they had nowhere to turn because not only were they struggling, but their family members were experiencing the same hardships. These issues include lead paint, lack of adequate heat even in the dead of winter, water damage from burst pipes or leaky roofs and windows, not being able to adapt homes to meet changing physical needs, and exorbitant utility burdens. Here in Philly, we know that in our city, low-income households spend an average of 23% of their incomes on utility bills, and nearly 3/4 of low to moderate income households who apply for home repair loans are denied by conventional lenders. And Philadelphia is not unique. Across the Commonwealth, hundreds of thousands of homes have moderate to severe physical inadequacies, including leaky roofs or windows, blown fuses or exposed wiring, unreliable heat, or the lack of a flushing toilet, with increased extreme weather events accelerating the deterioration of our homes. Across rural and urban counties alike are engaged in a shared struggle against the detrimental effects of blight, abandonment, vacancy, and displacement, and the accompanying community-wide harms that this cycle triggers. And no statewide structures existed that were capable of responding to the magnitude of this need. This past year, my team had countless meetings with housing and energy efficiency advocates and community organizations. Their input, in addition to the personal testimony shared by Pennsylvanians, gave shape to this legislation. And we met with colleagues across the aisle and found that this was an issue that they cared about deeply too. So I'm incredibly grateful to be here and the chance to talk about this work. I know that all of us are entrenched in the struggle for housing as a human right, for energy justice, for economic health, and community well-being. You're a group of people that knows that our housing crisis and our climate crisis are inextricable. This fight took all our collective efforts and it will continue to take all our collective efforts. So I have a couple slides that I believe that we're ready to share. We can start with slide 1.
Oh, okay, great. We have slide 1 up.
Great. Okay, cool. Thank you. The Home Repairs Act was born from the knowledge that some of the biggest crises we are facing are our housing crisis and the climate crisis. And let's reiterate, these crises are interlinked. Could you go to slide 2, please?
Yes.
As of this past Friday, July 8th, Whole Home Repairs has been signed into law. We've received a $125 million appropriation to launch this program. And over the coming months, my office will be working closely with the Department of Community and Economic Development to roll out the program. Dozens of housing and energy advocates and community partners were allies in the campaign for this program. This victory is theirs as much as it is a victory for our office. This program has its origins, and this is slide 3, I'm sorry, you could go to the next slide.
It's okay.
In our strong belief that every person has the right to a safe and healthy home. As we know, on any given day in Pennsylvania, tens of thousands of people across our Commonwealth are experiencing housing insecurity, and hundreds of thousands are living in homes that are fundamentally unsafe because they can't afford repairs. I'm sure that most of us can think about a family member or neighbor struggling right now to hold onto a home that is already unsafe. Maybe they're dealing with a leaky roof and mold, or they are getting older and can't get up the stairs anymore, or their incomes can't keep pace with ever increasing bills, and their utilities have been shut off. Next slide, please. Pennsylvania is growing hotter and wetter each year. Our homes are victims of the climate crisis, deteriorating at a rate faster because of it. Pennsylvania has some of the oldest housing stock in the nation, and our old homes are being forced to withstand increased extreme weather. and flooding that they were never designed for, and they don't always withstand it. Who here is still dealing with the impacts from the hurricane or has experienced flooding or water damage? So let's go to the next slide, please. This can trigger a cycle of displacement. As homeowners and landlords forego repairs, they face pressure to sell their homes to speculators or even to abandon them. People are being forced from their communities, and then rent and home costs go up. Here in Philly and across our state, people are being forced from their communities. And for too long, Pennsylvania lawmakers have ignored both the climate crisis and the housing crisis and their impacts on our communities. Right now, there are some programs that exist to tackle building emissions and high utility bills, such as the Federal Weatherization Assistance Program. But currently, there is no way to address the structural problems of a home holistically if you need other repairs, which means that tens of thousands of people fall through the cracks and don't receive any help. And many more people who need these programs haven't even been connected with them yet. Next slide, please. The Whole Home Repairs Program is a response to these twin crises. One, the Whole Home Repairs Program is the first of its kind in the nation. It doesn't seek to reinvent the wheel, but instead to build on existing programs to create a one-stop shop for home repairs and weatherization so that people can stay safely housed in homes that they can afford. The Whole Home Repairs Program works by finding a fund to fill the three main gaps our existing infrastructure. One, it funds home repairs. Two, it funds support staff. And three, it funds workforce development. And I'll go into the details on these. The repair part. So the program funds habitability, energy efficiency repairs for homes across the state. It does this by providing $50,000 grants for homeowners and the same amount in the form of a forgivable loan with affordability restrictions to small landlords. Two, it funds support staff. The program allocates resources for support staff to help people access the right programs in the right order to meet their needs and maximize their access to holistic repairs. This is the local one-stop shop that we've been talking about. And finally, this program provides resources for workforce development. It provides resources to increase retention in home repair and weatherization training programs and pre-apprenticeship programs, including by providing cash stipends to trainees so that our state can build up the workforce needed to meet the demand. Next slide, please. The Whole Home Repairs Program receives local, statewide, and national attention. This campaign was never about a hope for something to happen years in the future. We knew that Pennsylvania would have a revenue surplus of $10 billion, and we were fighting to make sure that this money went to people and communities that needed it. And we're happy to say that at least a portion of that surplus has been appropriated for this bill. Next slide, please. Rural and urban counties alike are engaged in a shared struggle against the detrimental effects of blight, abandonment, vacancy, and displacement, and the accompanying community-wide harms that this cycle triggers. The Whole Home Repairs Program will mean that no Pennsylvanian falls through the cracks. It will preserve our housing stock to keep people in their homes, reduce utility burdens, and prevent community displacement, all while creating a skilled local workforce and new family-sustaining jobs in a rapidly growing field. Though this program was written by my office, it was also written by every Pennsylvania resident and advocate who is calling for a change to the crisis status quo. Next slide. So that is the program. That is the program that we have had adopted, and I'm happy to hear your thoughts, your comments, and your questions. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. Thank you very much for that presentation. So that was packed full of information. This Zoom is being recorded. So if people need like updates on some of the stuff that was talked about, we do have the Zoom. But in addition, you can also find all of the information on Senator Saval's website, where it's all detailed and laid out. So I actually want people to engage in questions and answers now if everybody is on that page, because here I go. I got some questions, but I don't want to be the first one to ask questions. I kind of want to engage the group to go there. So I see we have Jacqueline Wiggins got her hand raised. Miss Jackie, go right ahead.
Hello, thank you, Senator. My question is, I was listening, but sometimes I might not be paying close enough attention. Is this a low income program, or is this a program for all? Is it an income type program?
So it is income restricted. It is meant to be about for the repair portion of the program is 80% of the area median income in any kind of metropolitan statistical areas. So what that means for Philadelphia, I believe, is that 80% is about $90,000 income for a family of four. I think that's about right. That's roughly correct. And that changes for metropolitan statistical areas. So that's for the home repairs part. Now, other programs federally have their own restrictions, and part of the point of the bill of the program is to help people coordinate and have support staff to help people get involved. So, or to help people apply who are eligible. So, for example, weatherization assistance is 200% of the federal poverty line, but other programs have their own restrictions. But basically, it is income restricted. It is meant to be on the upper end, so include, to have, working class families be able to apply. And then I'm sorry, I will add one thing, which is that's for homeowners. For tenants and small landlords, basically, if the apartment rents at 60% of area median income, that is the rent, not the income of the tenant, that those apartments are eligible as well and that's not in the form of a grant, that's in the form of a forgivable loan. And the loan is contingent. It will turn into a grant if landlords maintain their apartments as affordable for a 15-year period. Basically, if you receive the loan as a landlord, you make the repairs, you can raise your rents up to 3% every year on the base rent for 15 years, no more. If you go above that, you have to pay it's not a loan, you got to pay it back. If you do it for 15 years, it's a grant. You don't have to pay it back. The idea being that we don't want landlords to, make repairs and displace tenants. So that's the reason for that proposal. But we do want these apartments to stay affordable.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I do have another question, but I'll wait a minute.
Okay. I have Paula. Paul.
Yes, thank you. First of all, thanks and just shout outs to the coalition and to the senator for working on this effort and bringing it forth. My question is, immediately when I heard about it, I just saw one of my congregants in church that so badly needs this. So when does the application process open? And how do you go about applying?
So we just passed the legislation and the money is appropriated, but the guidelines have to be implemented through the Department of Community and Economic Development. We have not started that process. We hope to work on it through the summer. I do not know when we will be finished with that process. We hope to as soon as possible so that we have heard that we want people to be able to access the money as soon as possible. But we also, but we're not at the point of implementation just yet. So without knowing for sure, we know that we hope to open it as soon as possible. And we will, if it's helpful, I would ask that whatever way that your congregants' information can be sent to our office, we are keeping a list of people who have expressed interest in taking advantage of the program. And we want to make sure that we communicate with them once the program is open. So we would welcome that contact for sure.
So what kind of information are you looking for specifically?
Just simple contact information and that they are interested in applying for the program. That would be fine. And then we will keep that information on file. until the program is ready to be rolled out, and then we can contact people.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Paula. The next question is Greg, then Michelle. Okay, in that order. Thanks, Greg.
Oh, hang on.
Yeah.
Hang on. I'm trying to get myself unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, great. Sorry about that. Hey, thanks for the invite, Gail. I'm loving all this info. And thanks to you as well, Senator. Several concerns of mine, though. I was just reading about the poverty rates for folks of color. And Hispanics sit at about 37.9, Blacks at about 32.4. And that's in the Philadelphia area. I'm concerned that 100 million is not going to be nearly enough when you open this up for folks to come in and solicit the help. Is there any way to get more than that dedicated?
So one, you were absolutely right to be concerned about the amount. I mean, not because we aren't obviously proud and happy to have secured money for a new program, but because we know the need is larger than that amount. It's much larger, in fact. We estimated that where we want to repair 10,000 homes a year, and each home requires, let's say, $50,000 worth of work. Plus, we wanted to fund, other, workforce development and the like, and technical assistance would cost upwards of $750 million. So you're quite right. That means that we will need to fight for more funding in the years to come, simply to fight for funding that is recurring. That said, there is the program is not simply operate on its own terms. So one of the things that the program does is it funds home repairs, but then funds support to help access existing other forms of funding. So, for example, many people aren't able to access weatherization assistance, which lowers your utility bills and the like. And because they have an existing deferred maintenance issue, you can't get your home weatherized, which means having your building envelope sealed up if you have a leaky roof. So this funding would allow you to access the funding. It would help you get your roof repaired, and then it will help you get your home weatherized. It'll lower your utility bills as a result. There's a lot of relief in the form of opening up other lines of funding. So I think it will layer on to existing sources of funding. It will make those sources of funding work better. Dollars will go further. That said, you're exactly right. We need more, and we are prepared to fight for more, and I hope we all will.
And one other lesser concern is how much of what you have dedicated right now will be eaten up in support staff salaries.
That has to be worked out in the guidelines, but we don't anticipate that the support staff salaries will consume the budget, because it's not, in a way, everyone has to do all three things. You can't just do the repay. The way our program works is each county will designate, that is interested in the program, will designate an agency, a nonprofit or what have you. It could be, so for example, in Philadelphia, it could be, I'm not saying it will be, but for example, the Philadelphia Energy Authority, which already helps people with a number of different holistic home repair programs. And they have to do all three things. So the support staff just is to ensure that the program actually functions, and that other programs function. We know from our experience that lack of administrative capacity has burdened a lot of programs and has made it difficult to get money out the door. Philadelphia did a very good job, I would say, with the rental assistance program by comparison with many other counties. But we saw that in certain other counties, the lack of administrative capacity made it impossible to get the money out the door. So, I share your concern. We don't want it to be a sap on the program, but we also need to make sure that it is possible for people to get direct lines of contact, because that is one of the reasons that a lot of our housing programs don't work.
Could you look into at least making sure that they're funding?
Hello.
I'm sorry.
I can't have you bogarting. There's a lot of other people waiting to ask questions. If we get time, we'll come around. But this is my suggestion for everyone. If you have additional questions, put it in the chat. I'm going to give the list of the next group of questions. Okay. It's going to be Michelle, T-By, Kevin, and then Craig. And then I'm going to go back to Jackie because she had a second question. Okay, so I'll remind you guys. So Michelle, you're up.
All right, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Senator Saval. I'm here. I'm also with the Philadelphia Rent Control Coalition, and so we really, really appreciate that, like the affordability restrictions for tenants, and that's really important. One question I had, because something I see both with tenants I talk to and also homeowners on my block in particular, is like pests being a huge issue, from roaches to like on my block in particular, like the squirrels and the raccoons like trying to take over basically. And if the bill or the services that can be provided, do they address that? And do they at all address how, like, in many instances, not just with pests, but in row houses, you know, sometimes the problems can't be solved unless your neighbors are also making repairs. And is there any way to, that might be a more Philly specific issue. But
that's a great question. So I'll address the first part of it. So it does address that part. It is meant to be a broad definition of human habitation, and pests are part of that. So yes. The second part is not explicitly addressed in the legislation. It does not entail that neighbors also make repairs. So that is not explicitly part of the legislation. In a sense, because the program is voluntary, it, you know, in some sense top to bottom, right? It's like it doesn't impose on people to make repairs that they may not want to make. I mean, mostly that's to address the desire of counties to do the work, right? That's not like an individual preference, but it does not address like kind of, it doesn't offer that, it doesn't have that mandate, but it does address the issue of pests, and insofar as those are impediments to having housing that is fit for human habitation, which is one of the definitions.
Great, thank you.
Hey, Nikil.
Hey, Tiva.
Good to see you. Listen, thank you. Congratulations to us all because of this bill. And so I have a two-part question. The first part is this repair program in the condition that it started off with when you wrote out what you wanted, what you felt like we needed, or were there amendments to it? And so after you answer that, it'll determine the next part of the question, because like, how did you make this happen when everything is under gridlock? We need you to actually speak to that, because we need to be able to come at other senators with some joy and positivity on how to get things passed. And we're going to be using you as an example on this.
Thank you, Tiva.
The second part is I'm asking whoever your marketing team is going to be, please use the networks. Please use 369, 1029, you know, whatever, to push this out to Philadelphia, because they're not on email. Yes, the social media for some, but the news still gets the older people and folks that aren't necessarily tech savvy. So please use the news to push this out heavily, because Philly needs it bad.
And I need to jump right in here and piggyback off of what T-By just said. I'm a block captain, and I realize that block captain network is something that in Philadelphia that may be unique to Philadelphia, but it's something that is underutilized. And so when I find out about things such as this bill, this is things that I talk to my neighbors and my community about, but I have to do it on a person-to-person, block-by-block basis, because once again, that social media type network and higher forms of communication don't always work in the lower income neighborhoods of elderly people who have medical conditions or who are disabled and don't have family looking out for them and things of that nature. So these are also concerns about applying for and getting the resources and the help in order to access this type of program and others like it. So I'm sorry, but you can just jump in and answer T-Bow's question now.
No, I mean, those are both great questions, and they're obviously related. I would say, to get to the first part, how it happened. I mean, one, I would say that we wanted to craft a bill, like purely on the legislative side. We wanted to come up with, like, I campaigned on this issue. I believe that housing is a human right. We wanted to be able to, there are many ways to establish that right, but one of them is to make sure that people are able to stay in the homes that they have, and avoid gentrification, to avoid displacement, to avoid elderly people losing their homes to speculators. These are things that we all know, I think, from our neighborhoods, that we know from Philadelphia, and that but we wanted to we had an intuition that this was a problem that was shared across the state. And it is true that people across the state, especially I would say in urban and rural areas, although it cuts across geographic boundaries, face pressures of displacement. We have an aging housing stock. People in so-called, in Republican areas face this issue. People in our city face it. People in Reading, Allentown, Lancaster, Pittsburgh, they are, and then smaller boroughs, rural areas. Talking to practitioners who do the home repair work across the state, they said this was the major gap that they found. So we had a bill that we thought could basically satisfy the needs of a lot of different people. And then the second, so that meant that we weren't like crafting the bill specifically to make it appealing to Republicans, or, for example, for that reason. We were just crafting a bill that would make sense for the state. That's all we wanted to do. And that was the main goal. And then as a result, it made sense to people who had these issues in their districts. But the other component, which is, key, I think, is that we worked with grassroots groups across the state to raise the alarm on the issue. So we traveled to Reading, Lancaster, Allentown. Reading and Lancaster and Allentown are not in like Democratic Senate districts, and Reading may be in a Democratic Senate district, but not all of Berks County is. I think we had Pittsburgh may be Democratic, but not all sections of Allegheny County are. Not all sections of the West are. We had hearings across the state. We had bipartisan hearings across the state. So we organized, and by say we organized, I mean, a broad collective of organizations. 58 organizations were part of the crafting of this. Pennsylvania Stands Up, Make the Road Pennsylvania, to name just two out of many, did a huge amount of work to do that. And so we got a lot of media and attention to an issue that people shared, as a problem. And Republicans signed on to co-sponsor the bill, as well as every Democratic senator. And ultimately, I think we wanted it to feel inevitable. That was our goal. We weren't sure that it did until like literally the very last minute, And so, when it passed, I mean, we still were not sure it would until the very last minute. That said, now that it is law, in addition to kind of catching our breath, we have to implement it and make it, we have to make it widely known. And so I totally agree. And I am enthusiastic about the possibility of having these conversations anywhere and everywhere, on every form of every media platform, the radio, on a block. We're ready to do it. I think we may want to do it when we get closer to actually rolling it out, so that, because we want people to be able to, we want to be able to understand, people are already contacting us as they are contacting you and other people. How do I apply? At some point, we had to have an answer to that question, which we will, of course, but be able to literally answer it in the moment, and I think, so we're excited to do that. We will need everyone to get that word out. And so I agree. I totally agree. and we, to do so in not just kind of email or social media or things like that, but to do so through newsletters, through neighborhood organizations, literally on a block, at a block party, in the months and years to come. Year to come. We're ready. I'm personally ready to do that. So.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin. And then I think it circles to Craig and back to Ms. Jackie.
Hi, Senator Saval. I'm a newly elected Democrat committee person in 1806. So I think you kind of answered my question, but I'm talking to voters right now, obviously for the election. You said it may be too early, but is there any literature from your team that I could use potentially to talk about that this has come in, especially when I spoke to older members in my community, those are the people where it comes up on the door, and giving them some information would be great.
Yeah, I mean, so I would say that you can absolutely, we have information about the program. We can't, the thing that we cannot provide is how to apply and things like that, but we would welcome people to sign up, in the same way that we were taking information from constituents who are interested in the future when it becomes available. So what we can do is is we can follow up with neighborhood networks, or perhaps if you kind of communicate your interests through this forum to either way, to the point of contact, one way or the other, we can get you the information, and you can distribute it as a committee person. And is this, I actually have to ask explicitly, is this an explicitly partisan call? Can we talk, I can talk politically.
So yeah, I didn't know. I actually have already contacted Renee and George in your office for other things already early on. So yeah, I don't know. So I apologize if I can't.
Okay, well, so then I won't talk about what the kind of political effects of it, but there is but absolutely for constituents, we can if you're in touch with our office, they can provide we have a one-pager, which we will need to update. I have to say that now that it has passed, which we have not done yet. So, it just happened. So
and to me, it's non-partisan for my neighbors. I'm going to help anyone, Democrat, Independent, or Republican. So I'm going to help them if they need the help from this program. So
yes, I guess I was about to speak about how this could help anyway, but we won't talk about that. But
okay, I understand. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Craig, and then Jacqueline.
So I want to congratulate you, Nikil, on this legislation. I think one thing is you hit the sweet spot about it helping homeowners, because the one thing, Republicans will still keep their ears open when you say homeowner. If you say tenant, they start, but I think in this case, and there is a history, as you know, and I work with a group out in Pittsburgh. The last literally 25 years, blight was one of the few issues, like dealing with blight, meaning vacant and abandoned properties in little towns all over the state that have had economic issues. That's been the one nonpartisan or bipartisan issue you could work on. But what was missing was a program like yours to actually provide funding to actually fix up some of those homes, not just for some new development, but for existing homeowners. With the apartment owners, if you mentioned the 60% of area median or area rents, that if their rents are at 60% of the average rent for the area,
60% of what would be exactly. So it would be it would be affordable to someone at 60% of who rents at sorry, let me restate this. If you make 60% of the area median income and what you would pay for rent, that would be considered affordable. And that would mean that you would not pay more than 30% of your income on rent, which is a standard measure of affordability that you're not of rent burden. So that's what it is.
So this would be apartments that in some ways we used to call them naturally affordable, or things like tax credits.
So it's not meant to apply for so-called, tax credit developments, LIHTC developments. It is more for kind of unsubsidized apartments owned by small landlords, up to people who own up to 15 units. And so across no more than 5 buildings. And so it is, yeah, exactly. In the jargon of affordable housing, it would be so-called naturally occurring affordable housing.
And one other quick follow-up is, who do you expect will be the agencies, groups, people who would help people, would take applications, or people would go to apply for the grants or the loans? What's your sense of that? Is it going to go to community development groups, like community action groups that are already doing weatherization, or already?
Exactly. That's sort of the thing I would anticipate. I mean, we have heard from community action that, when we were in Western Pennsylvania, those were the groups that seemed most, had already, in some ways were familiar with the issues that the bill is trying to solve.
Mm-hmm.
It also, so in Allegheny County, for example, I'm not saying that it will be, but it could be, for example, Action Housing, which does this work, that and who had a lot of input on the legislation as well. So that's what we had in mind.
Right. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Jacqueline?
Hi. I was trying to do some math, but here we go. There's 67 counties in the state, right? And this is a statewide program. So how would that money be distributed? How's that going to work in terms of Philly and a smaller county, like in Center County, or that type of thing?
Well, it's based on needs, so it's not by formula. It's not going to be allocated just to be allocated. It's a voluntary program. So if a county if a county does not want to participate in the program, they will not participate in the program. They won't receive the funding. That's just as it is. So we anticipate certainly that Philadelphia would participate, but other counties will likely do so as well. And so it is essentially based on need, and we'll kind of know after the first year how much need we have an anticipation of how much need there is, but in terms of actually applying for the program and the like, and what we will know a little bit more after a year of doing it. But we know that $125 million is going to be, it's not enough to take care of the problem. We need to continue to do it year after year. And we hope we will get more.
I hope so too. Gail, if you don't mind, just one little add-on here. We have PHDC in Philadelphia Housing Development Corporation, that has a basic repairs piece, and then another disability piece, and it takes them forever. And I always want to use the example of my good friend, Mrs. Alma Ross, who was 95 when she put in her application for a leak with her roof and so forth. Water would just come in, but that didn't happen. She was 95 then, and it didn't happen until she turned 100, which was this past February. So
ouch.
And what I'm saying is that, and she was persistent, over that time frame of 5 years. So I don't know, within the program's parameters, and you're finding out what the need really is, I'm hoping that people can understand that there are people who've been waiting and waiting and waiting, not for this program, but just for the help that we thought would be coming a lot faster than it does.
Absolutely. And, one of the principal kind of authors of the bill from my staff came from PHDC. And so was very familiar with those issues in the program. I think this would actually, and Dave Thomas, the head of PHDC, testified to his support of the program. This would provide an additional, is much higher level of funding, and would also make it available to tenants, and would also help fund the administrative capacity. We hope to relieve some of those administrative burdens that prevent people from getting help in a timely manner. So that's certainly not an outcome that we want, and we don't anticipate it, but we want to. No one should have to go through that, and so we are fighting to ensure that it doesn't happen.
He said he's not going to wait another 100 years.
Yeah, no, I
service. But thank you, Senator. I appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm going to go to Denise. I see your hand up.
Yes. Good evening, Senator. What I would like to know, when you talk about repairs, weatherization, roof repairs, outdoor repairs on your home, the problem is that's wonderful. And I'm sure once you apply and eventually probably get help. But the problem I have is we're surrounded because we have a lot of empty lots. We have growths of trees that are now, because I've lived here over 37 years, they're as big as the redwoods in California or the sequoias. And what happens during bad storms, during the fall seasons, whatever type of repair you may have gotten done on your roof, and you know, it's like the whole, I'll say it's like 4 houses on my side and four houses on the other side. We're surrounded by lots, and then we're surrounded by these humongous trees. Is there anything like an addendum or an amendment to your legislation that provides some kind of service that we could opt for to either trim the trees or absolutely get rid of them, that would be under your legislation? Because after you get all this repair work done, and then these trees do a lot of damage, then we have to go back. It's like a bad dream and do this all over again. Is there anything in your legislation that provides for that kind of service?
There is not. That is not directly treated in the legislation. I understand the problem you're talking about, but that was not a goal of the legislation in terms of attacking the kind of tree canopy and ensuring that it isn't damaging to existing homes. But I think we do want to prevent that as a society and as a city, but it is not part of the legislation.
So I'm gonna jump in here and be an antagonist right now. So the whole tree thing can it be climate control, weatherization? Because I live in that neighborhood. Denise is actually one of my neighbors. So I have a whole campaign annually to clear the lots. Clear the alleyways. So in the city, we're responsible for the alleyways in the back of our houses. So my block and the block behind me, we share an alleyway. And so there are, and I might be pushing the envelope, which I do. It might be pushing the envelope to say that, but the trees, kind of hold the water, overgrow, and mess up our roofs, our windows, things like that. So even when you, like Denise was saying, I know, here I go, like I said, it might be a little stretch, but we ultimately may need to have a conversation around what weatherization really is and how it affects certain communities when the city and the municipality does not take into consideration some of the house cleaning items that we as the community feel is really important and detrimental, So I just wanted to throw that in there just to kind of back up her her concern and what type of damage it actually does to our homes as the trees overgrow and kind of moves into our roofs and moves into the framing of our windows and things of that nature. So I just kind of wanted to go into that. We have a lot of questions in the chat. We have a lot of repeat questioners. If someone else other than the repeat questioners have a question, I'd like to get those thoughts in there. We're already at 7:20, however, and our meeting concludes at 7:30. I think this has been a dynamic interaction, and some of the questions and answers have been so amazing, and there's so many more questions. What I would like to do, Senator Saval, is to pull these questions together after this meeting, and make sure that you get these questions, and I can get the answers together and send them out to those of us who are on the Zoom, as a way to make sure everybody is continuously engaged. Like I said, if somebody has one more question, I'll throw it out there, but otherwise I'm going to kind of like start the wrap up, basically, to highlight some of the things and concerns that we have discussed and questioned.
Gail, I just have one. This is Nicole Magruder. And it's really kind of just to reiterate, I think that what has already been said in regards to who is going to assist in making sure that the community has the proper assistance in applying for the applications. I'm out in Montgomery County. And I know there have been several instances with several of the larger organizations not being as responsive or inviting to community members, so they don't utilize their resources and them going to other under-resourced organizations for help. And with a project like this, and I'm assuming, like you said, it's going to be year after year, and I would hate for it to be like stalled or not as effective as it could be if it's all just like, hey, we're putting all of our eggs into one pot, and hopefully that organization is effective in all the spaces I believe they will be, because then it was all for, not. I'm so happy that the legislation got passed. That's fantastic. I'm actually on the board for Habitat. So Corinne had sent out, an amazing, email, and I know I love Habitat to death, and it seems like they, they kind of hit all those spaces. So I might be a little biased where I think, it would work, but I know there are other organizations that I have worked with, and I've talked to other community members when they're trying to access resources from the county, and it's a stall after stall after stall, and they're suffering in the meantime. So I'm just hoping like maybe some consideration is given into perhaps divvying it up, a percentage, maybe the legacy organizations that have been there, but also consider some other organizations who are also in the community and have these existing relationships and have the capacity to do the work.
Yeah, that point is very well taken. And we want to be mindful of in implementation of ensuring that organizations that receive the funds are responsive and are nimble and can do the work. So that's totally well taken. Thank you. And I have to say, Ms. Gail, I'm having a little bit of a technology crunch, which my phone may die in any minute. So
I understand. I so understand if you have to go. I want everybody to say thank you to Senator Nikil Saval. I hope to meet you again soon. So we can chat and go to next steps, and we're going to share whatever you think next steps are. And we're going to share it out to this group and whatever other groups we have contact with. And feel free to always contact us if you want to come on and talk about something, because there are a lot of things we need to talk about, not just whole home repair, but I'm not going to get into the politics stuff.
And yeah, when he also always needs supporters in Harrisburg, we'll be right there.
Yeah, let us know when you need something. Give us a holler.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the great questions. I really enjoyed this experience. Please send the remaining questions to us, and we will get answers out to everyone.
All right.
Thank you. To be in touch. Thank you, Ms. Gail. Thank you, Neighborhood Networks. Take care. Have a good evening.
Thanks a lot.
All right. So everybody else that's still on, we got a couple of minutes. And Nicole, I would like for you to introduce yourself and and tell us who you are.
Sure. Okay. My name Am I frozen? Okay, there we go. My name is Nikil Saval. I'm the Executive Director for Community Hero Action Group. We're a 501c3 headquartered in Pennsylvania. Most of our work started around civic engagement, getting out the vote, nonpartisan, because my background was being the state chair for the NAACP during the 2020 election season. But now Community Hero focuses on closing the disparities in health and wealth within the Black community. And I can go on, but that's basically who we are in a nutshell. We've been focusing a lot on health, really for the last year and a half. But within the Black community, for us, it's the failure to be able to truly actualize intergenerational transfer of wealth within the Black community, and that comes from home ownership. And so this fits right kind of in that space of where we have been entering, and that's where we're really going to ramp up now. So that is kind of who I am. If you want to read more about Community Hero, find out more about us, communityheropa.org is our website. Feel free to reach out. My email is nicole@communityheropa.org. You know, we just started a new YouTube channel where we believe we're going to have a new show on Word. We have an annual health conference every year. Next year, we will have Gail knows about that, T-Ba, and we'll be having a health and wealth conference actually next year. That's pretty much it. Like I said, you can reach out if you like to learn more. Yeah. We're always looking for more folks to help, and I won't have to bother T-Ba as much. And
so I wanted to just we missed some of it, your contact information, but communityheropa.org.
Correct. Yes. Yes. My email is nicole@communityheropa.org.
Put it in the chat for us, and
yes, I absolutely will. Do that.
Okay.
And if anyone is interested, we have like several new programs that are starting in the immediate future. We're doing a lot around immunizations. I'm reading my whiteboard here. Immunizations, and also just mental health awareness and mental health first aid. Those are our newest ones that we're rolling out within the next month. So if you're interested in being a part of those new initiatives, please let me know. And we're also always looking for folks to help us with our GOTV campaign. I know Tim is already on the line. So, you know, most of these, I don't know, probably Neighborhood Network folks, but if you're out in the Monco area and you like to help us out, please be sure to reach out.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Nicole. So I don't know if there's other things of interest that folks want to talk about, hear about, learn about around housing. If you put it in the chat, you know, we'll definitely jot it down and try to address it. I'm pretty much informal. We can't have, well, we can, but we're not having in-person meetings. I think that may eventually come, but as we are still on Zoom, I still want the interaction and the communications between each other, the speakers, the guests that we have. I do want to know what issues and concerns around housing that the group and others may have, and you know, and see what we can get done. We can talk about the issues, and then we can maybe decide to do something about some of the issues if we all come together and pull our resources and our different organizations and possibly work together, because housing has been an issue for a while, and it is not going to be something that is going to be fixed overnight. It's taken decades for us to get here. It's going to take some time for us to start resolving some of those issues. I want to say thank you to everyone who attended. Definitely a big shout out to Senator Saval. That was amazing. You guys were amazing. You made this meeting amazing. And I hope to do it again soon. But definitely reach out, give us feedback on what you think, what you need, what you want, what you would like to have. you know, like I said, I'm pretty informal, but I think, you know, it gives people an ease of communication and conversation.
Gail, it's Craig. Hopefully it's a friendly question. How can people get a hold of you?
Oh.
Do they need to go through Ken? Because in terms
they
of
can get a hold of me. My email. So my name is Gail Loney. I'm involved in a whole bunch of stuff.
Hey, that's for sure.
And that's Miss Paula Paul right there.
Yeah.
From Power.
I've heard of famous Paula Paul.
Uh-huh. And I'm putting my email in the chat.
GD money.
So everybody can get in touch with me.
Right.
And we are like right on the nose. It's 7:31, you guys. I think I think we did good. So you know how to get in touch with me. You know, reach out, let me know what you think. What can we do better? You know, what do we need to add? You know, I'm open for suggestions.
And we'll be contacting this group or others that have participated, like with Michelle's rent control presentation.
That's right.
Without any updates and ways that people can get involved as things unfold here.
Yes, we will. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Okay, good night. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.